Is it possible to change destiny? What is destiny and how is it formed? This is a topic that interests every healthy-minded person. That is why a lot of diverse information is spread about it. However, none of it is true. This is because only someone who is properly versed in the laws of the universe and abides by them can obtain this information. Such a person is known to God, and only to them does he give the grace to perceive true information from the spiritual mind. I offer you true information about destiny. You will certainly not find it difficult to believe in its authenticity if you properly analyze the path that you have traveled in your own life based on it. Therefore, I will explain what destiny is and how it is formed. To do so, I will remind you that the human being is a whole created by the union of soul and body. While science does not acknowledge the existence of a soul, I believe it is enough to remind you that a corpse only lacks a soul to be a person and nothing else. As for the soul, it is a field that contains a program. This program is called the mind and contains a connection force between words and the materials and events in the universe. The language of the mind is called the intuitive language. What is the mind's program and how does it work in a person? I would say that its method of operation is very similar to the principle of computer programs. The main page is a section of laws containing the commandments. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your understanding. These laws are presented in the Bible as true knowledge about God and the universe. Under the main page are other pages that include the laws necessary to fulfill the other commandments and reflect the norms of human behavior in society and the family. In other words, to put it more simply, destiny is governed by the laws of morality, where a true belief in God plays a determining role. A person can never acquire this if they do not have a feeling of true love for their neighbor, but do not confuse true love with other feelings. It is based only on selflessness, sincerity, intolerance of injustice, the inability to hide the truth, kindness, sincere support for others in their grief, and sharing in their joy, forgiveness, courage, and clarity of vision that the darkness of envy can touch. We also inform you that a person's body also contains a field that resides in the stomach and holds a program that is the opposite of the mind, what God calls it the proud mind. As for the field containing the mind, its place of residence is in the brain. Regarding the creation of destiny, I will tell you that hereditary genes have a huge influence on it. Therefore, in the period after Jesus Christ, the situation is as follows. The sharing of the good conscience obtained the result of the redemption of humanity's sins with his own blood was given to every child born, or to put it more simply, according to the law, baptism is not the washing of the body, but the promise of a good conscience to God at the expense of the good conscience obtained by Christ. Every newborn is given a soul baptized by Christ's grace at birth. This means that every child is baptized with the grace of Christ from birth, and their godfather is Christ. Therefore, the child path of destiny is also set in the right direction. But what happens next when the child's life period begins? What happens next is that he is a child who has also received an individual genetic code, what we call a hereditary gene in their body, is obligated in their life to fulfill the mission for which their birth was determined as a genetic inheritance. As you know, in childhood, thinking is not measure enough for a child to be able to judge. Therefore, the steering wheel of the child's destiny is entrusted to their nurturing parents. We also inform you that the hereditary factor contains many nuances, the acceptance of rejection of which determines the entire nature of a person's life, whether it will be one of suffering or of pleasure. This is a very large topic, and therefore I cannot discuss it in detail here. I want to remind you of a saying that people use very often, and it is the following: a person cannot avoid fulfilling what is written on their forehead. The written on the forehead destiny is precisely the type of divine grace that each person receives individually through their hereditary genes. But by what path they should reach their destined place, thorny crooked path or pleasant straight path, or whether they should reject receiving it entirely and earn God's wrath. This is determined by the choice they make themselves based on whether they follow the laws that are presented in the Bible as the rules of conduct in social and personal family environments. Therefore, the conclusion is this: a person is born as a sinless being who fulfills their role in a human mission. This role is given to them by actions of their genetic ancestors, and then whether they will take on this role or refuse to fulfill it, or what path they will choose to fulfill it or not fulfill it. This is already their free will, and of course their lifespan is directly dependent on this. Now I want to make a statement about the law. For the Most High created this world for the sake of the many, but the world to come for the sake of the few. This law states that the number of people with the gene for receiving the grace of God written in their destiny is small, and they are biblically called those written in the book of life. But there are many who have been given over to a depraved mind to do what ought not to be done. These people use various methods to try to seize the well-being intended for the candidates who are supposed to receive grace. In this regard, we inform you these countless people who serve as a barrier and make life miserable for those written in the book of life cannot even get close to them if, when taking life steps, they consider what is judged by God's law rather than public opinion. To do this, they must be properly versed in the laws established by God. Fulfilling them is not difficult at all and does not correspond to the demands that religions and religious sects impose on people and path of as the rules established by God. I also inform you that a very significant part of the world's population is a victim of this misunderstanding every day. This is because professional education is one kind of knowledge and being versed in the laws of destiny is another, and they have nothing in common. What is the situation now? Professionalism in scientific and industrial fields is at a very high level, but as for understanding the laws of destiny, there is complete ignorance. Therefore, modern man does not even understand that humanity is at the stage of completeness of the indicators to be received genetically. This means that the universe makes it necessary for the time allotted for people to be ignorant of the laws of destiny to end. In other words, according to the biblical record, humanity has entered the 42nd month. This means the period of the fulfillment of the judgment of mankind. Therefore, the knowledge we offer will be invaluable help for those who are called to receive the grace of God determined for them by destiny. This is so that the law may be fulfilled. If those days had not been cut short, no one would survive, but for the sake of the elect, those days will be shortened.